Hey Riders, I'm Aubrey.
And I'm Peyton.
And today we are reviewing the one, the only Onyx Storm by Rebecca Yarros.
Yes, so join us with a cup of coffee as we dive between these paper sheets. Let's do this. Alrighty, welcome back everybody to the Hardcover Podcast. I cannot believe that we are holding Onyx Storm. I have been living in La La Land for the past 2 weeks. We have finished this book and we are here to freaking review it for you all and get into all of the hot gossip that Miss Yarros gave to us. But with that being said,
Yes.
This is NS section only for book 3. So non-spoilers. If you've never been here before, we do a non-spoiler section, but only for book 3. Fourth Wing, book 1, and Iron Flame, book 2. We are not holding back for.
And we will then jump into a spoiler section later, but we will let you know.
Yeah, we'll let you know.
Before we talk about that ending, y'all.
But yes, let's pick up where the last book left off.
Speaking of endings, we have an incredible one from Iron Flame that we jumped into this book with because last book we left off after an epic battle of defending Basgith War College, where Xaden makes the choice to drain power from the earth to protect everyone, to keep everyone from dying, but becomes an initiate level of Venin. So now we have to fight the Venin, and our man is a Venin. And so that's where we pick up. From that, I want to jump into this review talking about expectations. Because obviously any book like this that's getting so much hype, so much attention, literally the New York Times said it was the fastest selling book of the decade.
This generation.
You're going in with a lot of expectations. But I also really thought in my soul that we were going to make a much bigger deal out of Xaden being Venin. And starting the book off, Violet is doing what any of us would do, in which she's like, yeah, my man's Venin, but it's fine. It's fine. I'm gonna cure him.
Yeah, this, and I think Rebecca Yarros said this, Violet's main song in this book and the next one is I Can Fix Him.
No, really, I can.
No, really, I can. And so this whole book is just keeping Xaden secret. And how are we gonna do that? Let's put it this way.
Okay.
Violet's inner monologue did get a decent upgrade from Iron Flame.
Yes.
A little less whiny, a little more sure of herself. Rebecca Yarros wasn't on as tight of a deadline on this one. And it does show.
Yeah. I just thought going into it, I was like, we're going to pick up in that moment.
I did too.
We're going to see Violet's reaction.
I did too.
We're going to deal with the weight of this. And I think it makes sense character-wise why it was kind of pushed aside. But as a reader going into it, that's why I wanted to jump off with this, is that my expectations were that we were going to jump into intense situations.
I think my anxiety was oh, good, we don't have to be in that tense state anymore. I was like, oh, cool, we're past whatever scariness was. He didn't get caught right away, because that would have been a save him plot.
Yeah.
It's just kind of I didn't mind it. I wasn't sure if they were going to return back to school and everything was going to be back to the status quo. And while nothing really is, the war college is kind of a joke at this point. We do go back to school. So it was interesting seeing her still what is she? A second or third
year.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is just a second semester of the second year.
Yeah. It's crazy thinking about what goes down in this book.
Yeah. Let's talk about this plotting that's going on, because
these bitches in the comments, I cannot stand them.
I feel like when I finished this book and I went on to Goodreads, I was not expecting everyone to be complaining that there wasn't enough plot, that it was a filler book, because I think people are wrongly identifying the issue at hand. A shit ton of stuff happened in this book. Think about all of the mini side quests.
Places we've been.
And then we have our overarching quest to find the seventh breed of dragons. Okay, going into the book.
And a cure.
That's what you have. Yep. She's trying to find a cure. She's trying to find the seventh dragon breed. That's our like overarching. We don't spend a lot of time in the first half of the book trying to fulfill that goal. We don't make a lot of progress to that goal right away. And so I think what people are actually upset about is that we didn't get a lot of like satisfying payoff in this book. In my opinion, I feel like we got a lot of building. I think we're set up for a great spot for the next book. And I was entertained. First and foremost, I was entertained.
It's crazy to me because I'll get into this in the spoiler section. There are so many times in this book where questions people had in the first two books were bitching and moaning that they wanted to know the answer to. We find out the answers in this book. And so I get so angry and we find them out along the way. It's not like an info dump at the end, and it's not like mysteries and thrillers are a lot like this. It's like, oh, you're reading. Okay, the last 2 pages, you get your like aha moment. No, there were multiple times in this book we got sprinklings of like what's Violet's signet, or like Xaden's history, or things about the seventh breed. Like things about her father. Like we got so many little drops and then realizations. If people want to bitch about this being a filler book, I would say, here's Iron Flame. I think I agree with you. Iron Flame is a filler book. Onyx Storm is not a filler book. It's just not.
No, I mean, there might be too many side quests.
I agree.
There's a lot of side quest things that make it feel a little draggy, but I would still say 80% of this book is needed.
I remember during the book, they even poked fun at the side quests. The general, like, you're out here going all on these side quests. And I was like, yeah, we are. But we are discovering things. And another thing people were bitching at on the last book was we never go to anywhere on the map. We don't go anywhere on the map. Well, guess what? We went through the map, okay? We went through a decent amount of it.
We went off the map.
We went off the map because Rebecca Yarros said it's a spoiler to include the rest of the map. Anyways.
Which I disagree with. I think that if Violet is given the map, we should also be given the map. Like, if they included the normal map that we have, and then on the second page was the version of the map that Violet had from her dad, that it was like, this isn't like an official out-of-world map. This is the version that Violet physically has. Because they even mentioned in the book, they were like, oh, the mountains aren't right on this. Like, there's more mountains than was actually drawn. So they could have put in unfactual, misleading information in the map to avoid the spoilers, but still let us see the map that Violet gets to see. That's my side thing.
So the world building,
that's a whole other controversy.
I know that the plot is an issue, the pacing, blah, blah, blah.
Now we have people.
I'm over this.
And I believe, and I could be wrong, but I think a lot of the people complaining about this next point are primarily romance readers.
Yeah.
Because people are complaining that there's too much world building in this book. And to that, I'd say it's a fantasy book. World building is kind of the whole big deal. It is the main genre convention promise that you're given. Literally, we started off book 1 hearing, oh, there's magical isles somewhere. Did you think we weren't going to go?
Yeah.
Did you think we weren't gonna learn all that fun information? Like,
I think Fourth Wing, I think everyone and their mom and their cousin and their dog read Fourth Wing.
And
it was the perfect romantasy book because it was centered on the tension of Violet and Xaden and their story. And nothing can beat Fourth Wing.
No.
That just felt so good. But I do implore you that if you love romance and you love Rebecca Yarros' romance, she writes incredible contemporary romance novels, and they are amazing. I have read them. I love all of them. She knows how to write romance, okay? That's her day one. If you love this, I'm going to also show you JLA. Go read her shit, okay? There's not much world building going on these days, but a whole lot of fucking. I'm just saying that this is a true romantasy because with the Rome, there's fantasy, and we need the fantasy to get the romance. And you just gotta read for yourself to really understand. But the fact that there's too much world building is bullshit.
No, it's ridiculous.
Too much world building? Get out of here.
World building in my fantasy book. I made a TikTok about it, and someone was like, That's kind of harsh, but true. Like, you didn't have to say it like that.
Like,
It
it's
was
okay if you didn't like it. For instance, I didn't really like Reckless because I felt like it was just all romance and there was no fantasy elements in the book.
Yeah.
But some people love Reckless, and I just feel like maybe Lauren Roberts is your girl if you love that romance stuff. I just was really looking forward to this more epic plot line. I mean, we were in a fucking war college with dragons. I need world building, okay?
And you made it past book 1. This is my biggest like confusion point, is that you made it past book 1 where Violet is info dumping all of the world building
Constantly.
to you, where she is literally just saying out loud historical facts, listing off date, proper nouns. Like I don't know. Like, that was such cheap world building in book 1 for Violet to just like list it off because that's how she calms herself down. And I think it worked for what Rebecca Yarros needed to do. However, if you can make it past that in book 1, then in book 3, when it's more developed, when we're exploring, like, exploration plots are a huge, like, type of high fantasy story. And now you're saying there's too much? Like, you made it past the gross world building. I don't get it. And then there's people complaining that there's not enough world building.
This is why Rebecca deletes Instagram during her book releases, because
you can't please them all.
You can't win. You can't win. I mean, and like, we're gonna bitch about things about this book. We're gonna bitch about things about other authors. At the end of the day, you can't win. It's a uphill battle. People just don't like Rebecca Yarros to begin with. Listen, just stop though. Okay. I love that romantasy has popped off for a lot of people. People coming from the romance side, people coming from the fantasy side. For me, I'm kind of coming in the middle, you know, not to be sexual. But still, you know what I mean? Like, we all have our backgrounds. And so just embrace the moment, girls. Okay. With that being said.
Yes.
Rebecca Yarros, the one thing she's got down, her writing style is funny. She's a funny writer. I giggle when I read her stuff sometimes. I swear to God, she sits down, takes like an edible, and just has like a good old time writing fantasy books. If you're a serious like fantasy person that like really likes fantasy, like you're gonna be like, oh, what the fuck? But as me, who is so unserious, I'm like, that's fucking hilarious.
It's not like medieval fantasy. I don't get as take it out.
Yeah.
Rebecca Yarros can say stuff that JLA can't, because whenever JLA has her characters saying like, lace that bitch up and run with it, and basically quoting Renee Rapp as her character, I'm like, you're literally in a corset right now and a gown. You are in medieval times talking to a god. Shut the fuck up. But because Fourth Wing is set in this like more dystopian setting than like medieval setting.
It's more like self-insert.
Yeah, I'm just like, no, it makes sense. Like, these are a bunch of college kids, and she doesn't shy away from the fact that it's a bunch of college kids.
Yes.
Like, Riddick is literally perfect in this book. Let's just say that.
He's everyone's favorite.
So well developed. Like, yes, he is the humor character, but there's even a line where he's like, don't treat me like because I make jokes, I'm not a full person, that I'm not understanding the weight of the situation and I can't be complex. This book didn't have the like addicting pacing for me as Fourth Wing did.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think you can replicate that. I think it's going to be really hard at a third book in a series. Like, it's hard.
Because this is literally smack dab in the middle. Like, we have a 5-book series. This is book 3. We are so far entrenched in that, like, if the middle of a book is usually boring, this is the middle of the series. And considering all of that, I think this book was fantastic.
I was really interested to see what Aubrey was going to think, because I read this very quick and she read it over like a week and a half, 2 weeks. Yeah. And so I was wondering, like, okay, so like I plowed through this book, obviously loved it. But you know, when you read something really quick, and I think the first girlies to get on TikTok to talk about it, we all felt the same way. And then slowly over the past week or two, people have been coming on with other opinions. And sometimes when you read a book more slowly, we see this at our own book club all the time. Yeah. People have different opinions than if you would have just read it. So it's cool to see that even, you know, pacing yourself through the book, because at the end of the day, like, it's a fantasy book. It's a bit longer. There are a lot of side quests, and it is the third book. So the pacing, yeah, I liked it better than Iron Flame.
Absolutely.
Nothing can beat Fourth Wing. Definitely my second favorite in the series.
Second books are hard, and I think middle books have different challenges. But the fact that Rebecca Yarros has been able to also have the power to kind of, with this book, go against her publisher a bit, because I don't know if you've heard, but she literally said someone was asking, "When's book 4 gonna come out?" And she's like, "No.
Yeah.
I'm writing a contemporary fantasy, and I'm taking the summer off to be with my son, and I'm gonna take time because I know that Red Towers has the tendency to push all of their authors to do quick and dirty and, like, print out
Money,
the
money, money.
money, money, money." And I think, like, that's as much as, like, there's things that she could have done differently in Iron Flame. I do think that, like, there's a point where, like, if your boss is, like, leering down your neck saying, "Hey, you just outrageously sold a ton of copies of books. We need the next one." Like, it's hard to fight against that. And so I think we're only going to rise back up from here.
This is a 5-star read from me.
Okay.
I cannot not give it that. I think I gave Iron Flame 4 stars.
Mm-hmm.
This is just that series that's going to be untouchable for me. You know,
Yes.
like if my kid comes to me and says stupid, disowned. Goodbye.
Well, it holds such a special place in your heart. Like, it literally became number 1. It knocked out your favorites.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's sometimes when you love something so much, you can just be like, I don't see the bad things. Like, my rose-colored glasses are on so thick right now.
Yeah, I see their faults
I
though.
saw a lot
Iron
of people
Flame,
give it 5 stars. So
yeah, definitely
sense,
definitely
but-
5 in the fantasy realm. 5 stars. Like
Yeah.
seriously, like romantasy, like it's up there. She's going on my 5-star shelf.
She is a strong 4 stars for me. There is stuff that I really liked in this book. There's a few critiques that I have with this book. I also just, like, mentally wasn't in the best space this month, which I tried to not let affect this book. Like, I think my
It's
enjoyment
hard.
level of this book was like a 3.5 stars, but I'm erasing my, like, oh, part of the reason I didn't like it was because I didn't have time to read it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's
I
hard.
had so much going on in my life. I think she was good. I just wish there was a little bit more payoff. I think that's my biggest thing, is that I felt constantly that the promises got a little muddled in this book,
Mhm.
where I had certain expectations. We didn't go that way, but then every little bit of a storyline that we were on, it was kind of more short snippets. And I wish we would have just, like, narrowed in our focus a little bit more, or had more payoff for those little things. For an example, the professor. Oh, actually, I'll talk about that never mind.
She's gonna explain her 4. Oh, I know exactly what you're talking about, and I agree.
Yeah.
It kind of felt pointless, but yeah.
So that is our star ratings. Now we are going to jump into spoiler section. If you haven't finished the book and you don't want it spoiled for you, this is the time to like and subscribe to this video before you pause and come back later once you've finished.
Yes.
We'd love it if you guys are sticking around to also subscribe, because it helps us out. It lets us know that you like what we're doing here. You can see more of our content. Give it a like, let other people see it. Let's talk some spoilers.
All right, we are in the spoiler section of Onyx Storm. Like I said, this book has so many side quests. We love books, we love the vibe of books, and we love gossiping about them.
Yes.
And so that is what you're getting on this channel. That's what you're getting on this podcast. So first and foremost, we are going to jump right into the romance, because we start off this book kind of in Violet's head of like, what the fuck am I going to do?
Here's my thing, and this is what I was going to say in the star ratings, is the first tier of romance that we get with Xaden is this, like, can't touch her. We get this, like, initial, like, scene of him, little spicy scene between them, and that's when he leaves the venom mark on the headboard, and he's like, oh no, I can't touch you. And so you have that bringing the tension back in.
Absolutely.
But I don't think we needed the professor plotline at all.
Dude, the professor plotline, I was so excited for. The minute it happened, I was like, PLL, Ezra and Arya, let's fucking go. But the thing is,
it was a letdown.
It was a letdown because he was hardly ever a professor, and we never really got that, like, student-teacher interaction.
Yes, I would love
like,
a college student-professor. Like, I guess read the Zodiac Academy. You know what I mean? Like, they fucking...
he even said, like, well, we're good at sneaking around or something like that. And I was like, yes, we're going to be sneaking around. And, like, I was so excited. But then they went on so many side quests. I did like the whole, like, well, are you Professor Ryerson right now? Or are you not? Like, It was cute. But, like, I felt like it wasn't fully, like, worked through.
It was like a tease.
It was such a tease, but I felt like it was pointless because in this book we go from like lieutenant or whatever to professor to Duke. Like it was like
commanding officer of the army.
Yeah.
Like they already have that. And honestly, like the power dynamics we had was so much larger in book 1 when it was a third year versus the first year, the wing leader. And you know what I mean? Like him being her wing leader kind of was that boss professor. And it was such a letdown. And then at the end, he's just got like removed from being a professor. They're just like, oh yeah, he's done that. And it was like one sentence closing the chapter.
Yeah.
And it pissed me off because during one of the sex scenes later, there was a moment when she was just like, if you don't start touching me, like I'm gonna touch myself and make you watch. And he was like, oh, like we should have done that before. And I'm thinking in my head, you should have done that. Like instead of the professor scene, we should have just played more into that, like I can't control myself, I can't, let loose and have sexy times, and played with that tension so that we got to like fully develop it and have a payoff of a scene like that. You know what I mean?
I mean, I was excited for the professor thing. I'm happy it happened. I was like kicking my feet reading, like, oh, this will be great. And then I was like waiting, and nothing ever really like happened. And I was like, oh, I feel like we got that more when Garrick or Bodhi, I don't know, would step in for him because he was always gone, may I add.
Yeah.
And so like we got that energy from like, was it Bodhi or Garrick that would step in?
I don't know.
I always like, to me, they're the same person.
No, it has to be Garrick because Bodhi's a third year.
Oh, that's
because that's part of Bodhi's arc. Yeah.
Garrick would step in. I love Garrick because he reminds me of like, I have this in my own life, like the boyfriend's best friend that you're kind of bros with. And like, I see Garrick and I'm like, oh my gosh, I know so many of you and this is so great. And I see that relationship between him and Violet. Like Garrick wants to protect Violet because he's like, that's my boy's girl.
Yeah.
And Bodhi's the same way. I don't know, like that just
Have you seen people think that Bodhi has a crush on Violet?
Yes, because Rebecca said that his song is I Look Through People's Windows.
Uh-huh.
And he said something like, don't count me out. Or something like that.
I think Bodhi's in a very like bad place. You know what I mean?
Where
it's like, oh, Xaden got to be Duke, but now Xaden's been training him to be Duke because Xaden's a freaking Venom.
And Bodhi doesn't want to be Duke.
Yes, yeah. So I don't know if he has a crush or not, but I certainly know that his emotions are mixed, and I feel bad for him. Another moment that I did like in the romance was when they are trying to get Xaden to do a marriage contract with Kat, and he's like, yeah, write it up. But her full name is Violet Sorrengail.
I loved that.
And I think that was the perfect teasing we needed for the end, where we do know they get married. And we are going to talk about that later. But I think that was like almost the moment where Violet was like, yeah,
I want to marry you.
With the romance behind the scene happening between Dane and Salome, obsessed. Everyone quoting and being like, eyes here.
I love that.
Yeah, and I want Dane to be hot.
I want Dane to have someone.
I would love it. I think that this book does best as a romantasy first person, but I think stuff like that really proves, and how at the end of the book we got like Rui and Imogen's POV, and we've had Xaden's POV before. I think that this book would have slayed as a true fantasy third person. And like we had many main characters instead of just Violet being the main character,
right?
Like a cast of characters. I think that would have slayed. I think it was not the best choice to do first person.
I agree,
but that would have been fun.
Sloane would make a badass main character.
Yeah.
And Eric.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and he knows shit.
He knows shit.
So y'all, we vlogged this, reading it, and that will come out eventually. And I literally looked up in the final battle and I'm looking at the camera and I'm like, what the fuck? Why would she not open this package from Eric? Like, there's no reason. Why do you really? She's like, why would Eric sent Salone out to the battle and opened his mail. I'm not going to look at his mail. Maybe because it's fucking important. Maybe because it wasn't intentional.
And she's like, I'm just going to put it in my pocket.
I was like, you idiot. And like,
You
I get
idiot.
it. Like, Yarros is like, she shouldn't look at it until she needs it in this final moment. But in my head, I'm like, no, that's the stupidest decision for our scribe character to make.
Yeah, she's really fallen off the ranks there. No, I agree with you.
Killing people off. Let's talk about that. Because Yarros,
she didn't hold back. She
No.
did not hold back.
No. I was so surprised when Captain Grady and Aurora died, like right in the beginning. And this is what I'm saying when people are like, this was a filler book. I don't think it was, because the themes of this book that Rebecca Yarros is trying to push is love and the brutality of war. Like, Rebecca Yarros is literally someone who's married to someone in the military. And as someone who's like dad's in the military, but even just like as a history buff, war is so brutal. And I really respect her being like, yeah, these characters are being introduced, and I'm thinking Captain Grady's going to be like more of a villain. I mean, we have so much history with him from Iron Flame, and then he's dead immediately. We're not holding back. We're not looking back. Traeger dies later.
That almost made me cry.
Really?
So Traeger and Kat had a thing.
Aww.
And we find out that
he was in love with her forever.
Griffins die when their Flyer dies. And there's just that scene when you think these people, like Rebecca Yarros, oh my God, I saw in my mind's eye exactly how this scene is going to be set up in the movies. I know
the tension was so good in that scene.
Like,
we're on the Isle of the people who like worship the god of luck, and they're like, you're gonna get a gift and you're not gonna complain, and they're getting all these shitty little things. Someone gets a fucking cat,
broccoli,
and then an
arrow, and they just shoot him, and you have to be thankful, and they're just sitting there holding their sobs together, and Violet has to say like, thank you.
I wish that Violet would have reacted a little less in that moment. Like, I wanted the Divergent scene when he's throwing knives at Trish and like it scrapes her ear and just like a single tear because they're like holding everything back. Like, that's how I wanted that moment. But
I think in the movies or TV show, they'll do that.
Yeah. But either way, that moment was so fucking good. And like, she literally was like, this is a fantasy book with fantasy stakes. I wouldn't be surprised if any character died. Like, I mean, Xaden and Violet, I'd be surprised because it's also a romance and I think they're going to get a happily ever after. But when Riddick almost died, he wasn't injured at all, but they were like, and then the chef stabbed him in the stomach, and Violet's like,
I was like, he's dead.
I was like, yeah, he's gone.
I don't trust Rebecca, and I think that's good writing. When we're like, she said that in an interview, she's like, I'll kill off anyone whenever I want. Like, no one is safe. And I was like,
you should. That's what I love. I love when an author won't hold back, because we have so many, especially in romantasy. I think plot armor is so incredibly thick in romantasy. It's so overdone where these characters either never die or they get revivified. Looking at you, Sarah J. Maas. So the fact that Rebecca Yarros is like, no, this is war, baby. This is war. Anyone and everyone's getting shot.
When he got shot with that arrow and just like died, I was like,
dead.
And then they burned his body with his griffin. I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, I went, because I was happy for Kat, because Kat's finally not being I can't say that word, a bitch. And, you know, like, she's not being catty.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she finally found someone, and they finally were like, all right, we like each other.
I also saw a TikTok that was talking about like how Kat can't even look because Xaden was just being so precious to Violet when we were on these islands without magics. And she was just like, you were never like that with me. Like, you really never loved me the way you love her. Heartbreaking. Our shadow daddy's a duke.
I know. I didn't really care though. I was was like, I don't give a fuck. He's Venom.
I was like, okay, whatever.
Cool, you're the Duke. Like, haven't you been? Like, in my head, I thought he already was.
We got the My Throne scene before the Duke, like before he.
I was like, aren't you already?
They're like, okay.
I really did not give two shits about that plot line. I was like, we know that. Like,
I love that.
we just put a name to it now.
Then we went to pick up the books that Daddy Sorrengail left for us.
This part. My God. I love this part. My favorite part about this part, and this is why Rebecca Yarros is such a funny fucking writer, and you guys, you bitches need to shut up, is when the guy's like, he's this old fuck, right? And he's like, you're not exactly how I imagined Dane ate toast. And it's Xaden. Xaden's like, what the fuck?
He's like, fuck. And they were talking about how, like, he's going to be so obsessed, da 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 da. And then it's like, Dane ate toast. And then it's like, just Xaden.
And Xaden's like, Dane's like, I didn't say it. Like, because her dad really thought that Dane and Violet were going to end up together. And they just, like, keep on messing up fate and stuff.
Also, as someone who wanted a breakup between Violet and Xaden in this book, and it was before we really saw any of the Dane Salone romance, I was just like, haha, more fuel to the fire.
And so they get those books, and Mira's in the corner like, must be nice dad left you something.
But for her then to like suss out that basically they sacrificed Violet, the dad sacrificed Violet to Dune because she wasn't perfect. Violet's just like, wait, my dad didn't love me as much as I thought he did.
Like, I thought I was daddy's favorite, and Mira was mommy's favorite, and Brennan is gay.
And Brennan is gay. Then we find the Irids. And this is, again, I'm just going to keep saying this. We keep having payoff taken away from us because the whole book has been about the quest squad finding these Irids. And I understand why things were done the way they were. And it makes sense because we're in the middle of the series. However, finding the Irids, and then they like found us, right? That's how the line was. Like, they just showed up on this island, and then they just showed up.
As they should.
They're
fucking invisible.
And then they failed. And then
I love that scene, though.
Yeah. And because then Donna was so proud of herself. She was just like, yes, and I'm this war person, and I'm going to slay, and you're going to come back and help us. And they're just like, you
missed
idiot.
The point. You ruined it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I knew they were going to come back at the end. I didn't know in what way. Obviously, like, they literally saved Tyrandor. Yeah, so that was probably my favorite scene, is her telling the whole story, and she's so excited. And then, of course, Xaden comes and ruins it with his eyes. They're like, what is that?
The dark one.
The dark one.
My favorite scene was Riddick after that. Absolutely grilling Violet because it was necessary. It was necessary.
He said no more secrets.
Who was mad at Violet in book 2 for being a whiny little bitch? I am mad at Xaden in book 3 for being a whiny little bitch. I'm sorry. You chose to make the sacrifice to get magic from the earth to save the day. Maybe you should have considered yourself. I'm sorry. I love Xaden. I don't want to come off as a Xaden hater.
I think he's just so mad at himself. He's like embarrassed and mad at himself.
He is just pissing me off because they have all of this like pressure, we know that Xaden is the most powerful. I mean, besides Violet, but at the moment, Xaden is the most powerful. You're so powerful. You know you're turning. You know at this moment there isn't a way to stop it. And he's not even trying. I feel like he's like, I can't help my control. I'm like, shut the fuck up. As a woman, if I was turning Venom, I would be able to control it. I feel like I'd have no problem controlling it compared to this whiny ass man. And I'm so tired of them endangering Violet. And Violet's just like, da 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 da. She's like, I'm going to save him. I don't care. I'm not scared of him. Right? And so for Riddick to come in and be like, when is the point? When has he crossed the line? And when can I turn him in? Like, you don't have to, but you need to. And she's like, he never do that. And I was like, then set the line. If he never do it, then it's no problem to set the line.
And that is a good friend.
Yes. That was what we needed. I needed someone to shake one of them. and be like, we can't keep acting like this is nothing.
And I love how Rebecca Yarros is like, I'm going to let these two characters live in La La Land, especially Violet, because Xaden's real with her. He's like,
yeah,
not if, when I turn.
I feel like Xaden should have tried to himself.
But then he wouldn't be in the story.
I know.
This is real life.
The plot. But
we're going to find a cure for him.
If I was becoming a monster and I was going to kill everyone,
I would stick around. I'd be like, you're going to watch this shit. At least he can do some good until he
It should have been acknowledged how incredibly selfish and stupid it is for him to just continue around.
Yeah, I think Ree and Rydick were like very much like, you understand how, especially when Mira finds out. Yeah. Oh my gosh. She's like, do you understand how insane this is? And so everyone's on that page that I think everyone reading is.
Yeah. If Xaden dies, then Sigale dies, then Turn dies, then Violet dies. So like we could have just brought that up. I feel like at one point he should have been like, you know what? I chose to draw from the earth and I choose to like let that be my final decision if I could, but I can't because I don't want you to die. But like, I don't know. It just felt so stupid.
I think the Venom plot, like him being a Venom, is what's going to carry us to that last book.
I agree. Well, and I still don't know if Violet is eventually going to
be Venom.
I don't want her to be Venom because I'm so pissed at Xaden for being Venom.
The 7th dragon breed.
Mm-hmm.
They say they don't have a cure.
Yeah.
But now that we're in this like temple with the gods, like I think it's about to get real fucking meta up in this shit, okay? You know, we don't really have gods that walk among them. I think we're about to have gods that walk among them.
No, I want, instead of Violet becoming Venom, I want her to go on like a paladin arc. I want her to be Dune's chosen warrior. I want Dune giving her blessings. I want her to become like basically a demigod because she's been sacrificed to Dune. I don't want her to go Venom. I want her to go better. I want her to go God.
And then think about this, because if Xaden's fully, you know, Venom, Violet is all good and they're married.
Maybe we could cancel it out. Maybe
they cancel out each other.
Violet could become the cure, and only God can bestow.
And we know that Xaden his soul is dead, except a part of it, which lives in Violet.
And that is what all the theories are. Jumping to the end here, Xaden's parting message is, don't look for me. It's yours now. And they want you to think that the it is Tyrandor, but they've only referred to Tyrandor as her. The it is his soul, and that's how we are preserving it. So even though he becomes full Venom, he is going to get the chance to turn back into human the way no other Venom will get.
Okay, the ending of the book.
Yes.
It's so funny that Aubrey texted me and she's like, I'm confused. And I'm like, correct. You are confused because I was confused.
Yeah.
And I like that we're confused.
Yeah, I think it makes sense. We're in the middle of the book.
There's no reason to be pissed about this ending. I think it ended exactly the way it should because we cannot keep on getting these crazy endings where Xaden is like, we got it. I think this was a perfect way to end this book. If it continued past this, I would have been pissed. I'm happy we got that little prologue, the last chapter. Sorry.
Yeah, I think that was considered.
It's when Violet wakes up and is like, I don't remember anything.
Yeah, that's just the last chapter.
I was married without consension. This was not consensual.
Well, and here's my thing also is that you bitches guess so much.
Yeah.
I think it's fun to not know where it's going to go. I think it's fun that like the ending was where it was. I don't know.
I can wait 2 years with this ending. The last book could not wait 2 years. So thank you, Rebecca. A+. Can we just quickly, 1 second, just talk about Xaden's mommy Garrick eating the chocolate cake.
Oh my
That
god.
scene is fucking hilarious when they're like, no one eat the cake. And Garrick's
he's
like, tastes just like home.
It's like so good. Honestly, I really respect this idea of like immediately just diving into the food. As soon as they were like, oh, 4 forks are missing, I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like, this is so obvious.
That's one of the in the non-spoiler section, I talked
Yeah.
about how I really, people are like, there's no payoff in this book, but like meeting Xaden's mom is a huge fucking payoff.
Yeah, it was
No
a big
offense.
deal.
It's a huge deal. Cause like we don't meet any of Xaden's family, and the fact that we see his mom
Yeah.
on a random island,
Yeah.
like, and she kind of sucks. Like, I do have some sympathy for her, kind of like I did Dane. Not gonna lie, she didn't know that her husband poisoned them.
And I think there's more to her story
There's more.
Because Xaden's like, she chose to leave, but she was just like, and then the contract was up. I think she was forced back.
I think she was forced back. I think this is a good representation of generational trauma, of being forced into arranged marriages, and she didn't have a choice. She had no autonomy over the situation. And yes, she could have fought more, but those were different times, baby girl. Like, those were different
power
times.
structures. Like, Xaden is the most powerful wielder of his generation. I think you get a little bit more say and autonomy and choice than your mom, who's not even a writer, would get.
Exactly. So as much as that bitch pissed me off and all that, I'm here for the redemption arc from Mama. Mama Ryerson.
I agree.
Seriously. I agree. So anyways,
there was a lot in this.
Yeah, like we find out that I literally have been saying her name all day. Theophany. Yeah,
I even audiobooked it.
It's Stephanie, but with Theo in the beginning.
Yeah.
Anyways, she's not a lightning wielder.
She's a storm.
She's a storm wielder.
What? She's mommy's balance, which also means because Violet did kill her in the end, right?
Yes.
So there was so much happening that I was like,
yeah, she does die.
I think because she was a storm wielder, that's letting a lightning wielder to be born soon as Venom. Because we did see that because Xaden turned Venom, a new rider got shadow powers, and he's like, this is the balance. Like, that is my balance right there. I think, because I don't think that Violet's going to turn Venom. I don't want her to turn Venom. I think more importantly, we're going to find someone whose Venom is going to become a lightning wielder soon.
Or there already is one.
Yeah.
I just love this idea of balance. In every book, like evil, where there's evil, there's good. And there has to be a balance. And it's this like ticking time bomb of like, but when that guy finds out he has shadows and Xaden goes and like calms him, I'm like, stop it.
And Xaden's like, shit, like this means I'm done. This means we're cooked.
We're like done.
Magic and the universe decided that I'm bad now. And I think we're going to play around with the themes of good versus bad, because I don't think it can be black and white. And I think that's kind of part of war, is that the media and the government will try to paint all conflicts as black and white. Like, we're the good guys, they're the bad guys. And that's never actually the case in real life. And the Irrid said something very interesting. They said, we don't think you want to stop the war. We think you want to be victorious. And that was part of their arguments for not helping fight. And I think we're going to get similar to book 1, where we realize that the rebellion's relics, like those kids, weren't actually fully bad. I think when Xaden pops off to the Venom, he's going to find that there's more at stake. There's more going on.
And so we find out, we didn't even talk about Violet's second signet, but who really cares?
We all knew it was going to be intensic, and
Rebecca come back in the next book
said that she's only developed 10%.
Yeah.
10% is nothing. Like, dream walking, I did say in the vlog, I was like, none of you bitches guessed that. Like, none of you bitches guessed dream. And props to Rebecca Yarros. Like, we all knew it was going to be intensic, but I loved the way it developed. I think it's going to develop further. Actually, our friend Tori, who's been on the podcast before, she talked about part of her theory that she saw online that she liked was that Violet's like second signet isn't just intensic, isn't just whatever, but it's more flexible of a signet of magic. because the Irids have this flexibility with magic that they're doing to the point where we've got to talk about Andarna for a minute.
Yeah.
That's where we'll end off with our conversation with Andarna. But
Yeah.
perhaps as Violet's second signet develops, she will have more ability to change and adapt and do more things with it because of this like odd connection to magic. Like she isn't just a dream walker, she is like magic herself in the signet. I don't know. It would be interesting to develop.
But we can talk about in the fourth book how this book is going to be Andarna's fucking moment.
Yes.
This book is going to be all about Andarna. Because it's good she went. It's sad, but it's good because homegirl is going to get a lesson in Irid.
Yes. I cannot believe, I think it makes total sense that she went, but that scene was the most soul crushing for me.
It was, because she didn't want to go, but she knew she had to.
She knew she had to, and she was just like, but I can't. Like, Violet had to give her permission to go. And then Violet was like, I literally almost stopped breathing. Like, breathing became unimportant once I got cut off. And it was only because Tarn was there to, like, spark down the bond and be like, no, you need to keep going. You still have a dragon. That's insane. And the implications of that, like, that's where I think the payoff was. And I think if that scene had been closer to the fucking end, you know what I mean? I feel like
bitching.
Andarna's relative, Irid, would have shown up in the final battle to light back up the wards instead of that mini battle that happened like 10 chapters. Like, there were so many fucking battles. If it would have happened then, but it would have happened at the final one, and in the final battle, Andarna would have left, and then we would have had everything else that happened. And none of you bitches would be saying what you're saying.
No.
I think the moments were just so spread out that we didn't have like a big moment.
I know, but it's almost like none of you guys will ever be happy.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm just saying, I feel like people are pushing aside the momentum. I mean, we almost missed it there of Andarna leaving because it happened so like not fully at the end. But
yeah. There's so much we
get leveled up.
That we could have done a 3-part episode on this book. We could talk about how Theophany or whatever the fuck her name is was part of the temple. Like we could go in forever about this.
Yes.
Guys, I'm curious to see what side of the fence we all are on for Onyx Storm. I am on the good side. So with that being said, please like and subscribe. We hope that you'll stick with us into the next book.
Yes.
And let us know your star ratings down below. I'm really curious.
Thank you so much for joining us, and happy reading.